Welcome to Kairos and Oak Ridge. This is Andrea. I am not going to be speaking to you about Jewish nationalism. If you would like to see that presentation, look on our YouTube page. It's fantastic. I highly recommend it. What I'm going to be speaking about is what was most meaningful to me during the Prophet in You series. I could sit here and talk about that all day. Most everybody knows that. Just a few things I'd like to point out. I first started coming to Kairos this coming August of 2024 will be 3 years. And so when I started coming, the series was already in progress. So I joined the program already in progress. And I heard Myra and Jack talk about sharing the Prophet in You. And I remember there being a little stirring in my spirit. Like the Lord was like, you may need to raise your hand a little bit. You may want to, and I was like, I can't do that. Can't do that. I'm not qualified to do that. I can't do that. And the Lord took it upon himself to give me that push. And on October 7th, 2021, 3 years to the day after my mother passed away, I got a text message from Jack asking me to teach on Joel. And I just really felt like the Lord was sending me a message that I needed to do that. And because of that, my whole life has changed. I've really started to embrace a teaching gift that I never really I knew I had that passion for the Bible and I had that passion for teaching, but I didn't have the confidence or the boldness at that time to step out in it like I do now. And I thought I already knew so much, but that's the thing. You think you know so much, and then you start learning, and you realize you don't know anything. You're so unqualified. So what I want to say is this. When I went in to the Prophet in You series, my idea of a prophet was always end times eschatology. That's how I always pictured prophecy, because that's so much of the prophecy that's in the Bible. At least those are the memorable parts. Everybody knows just about who's not in church has heard of at least Ezekiel 38, Gog and Magog, and most people have a basic, very basic, rudimentary knowledge of the prophecies in Revelation. But being a prophet is so much more than that. Because so many of the prophets, yes, most of them did have visions of the end times, but there were so many other things they prophesied about other than that. They prophesied in their own times, in their specific lifetimes. They spoke to things that were going to happen to them. A great example of that is Jeremiah. Jeremiah not only prophesied about the destruction of Jerusalem, but he witnessed it. Don't believe me? Read the book of Lamentations after Jeremiah. That's what it's about. He saw it. So it's not just about speaking into something that's going to happen centuries and centuries and centuries down the road. It's about speaking into now, into their life, into their context. And then there were other prophets like Elijah. What did Elijah do? Did Elijah have some great vision, some apocalyptic vision where he was carried into heaven and he saw things? No. He spoke into the situation in his own time. He was faithful to God in his time. That's a prophet too. Knowing how to speak into your time. And then later on down the road, much later down the road, the one that really sort of picked up Elijah's mantle, that's the bridge between the Old Testament and the New Testament, John the Baptist, the last great Old Testament prophet in the sense of how you think of a prophet. Did he have grandiose visions like other prophets did of things that were to come, of wars and rumors of wars? No. His task was very simple. He was just to prepare the way for the Messiah, for Yeshua. And he spoke into his time. What got him killed? Was it the fact that he had a dream or a vision about a war that was prophesied to happen thousands of years in the future? Or was he prophesied because he challenged a king, and the king's woman of the moment, because they were living in adultery? and it was contrary to the law of Moses. He spoke into his times. So I say that to say this: prophets can speak now. Prophecy isn't something that was for just Elijah or just Elisha or just John the Baptist or the Apostle John or the Apostle Paul or other men, great men of the Bible, great women of the Bible. Not just men, women too. Deborah was a prophetess. She was a judge and she was a prophetess in the Old Testament, in Judges. God needs us now. And then you have other prophets like Stephen. What did Stephen do? Stephen just stood in front of the Sanhedrin at a trial and basically gave them the history going back to Moses to the present and explained to them that Jesus was the fulfillment of everything in the Mosaic law. And when they didn't want to hear it because he was so impassioned, because he believed in what he was preaching. He was stoned to death for what he was speaking to about the past. You can speak about the past. I think one of the things about prophecy is it's not just understanding how to interpret future events. It's about having sound knowledge of the past. And I believe part of that is having sound knowledge of the Word. And so I would encourage you, if you hear someone calling themselves prophet or prophetess, they could very well be gifted by God. But I think the way to understand if they are truly gifted by God, does anything they say, is it contrary to what's in the Word of God? Does it contrast the Word of God, or does it agree with the Word of God? If what they say and what they prophesy is in alignment with the Word of God, and it does not deviate to the right, it doesn't deviate to the left, it doesn't add to, it doesn't take away, it's in perfect alignment with that, they're a prophet. They're a prophetess of God. They're anointed. If it deviates, if it adds to, if it takes away, get away from them, because more than likely they're false. Doesn't mean they don't have a gift, but if you claim to be a prophet of God and what you're expounding is in great argument with the Word of God instead of agreement, get away from them. That's what I've learned. I feel like I'm a lot wiser than I was before in terms of being a Christian. I feel like knowing more about the prophets of the Bible has given me an insight into God and in ways to make my own walk more meaningful. So that's what the Prophet in You series means to me. Thank you.